Okay, so for starters, I just want to say it's nice to see a Lions victory, isn't it? I know preseason doesn't matter, the wins, the losses, like that doesn't matter, but it's still good to see a victory. And nobody knows better than the Lions that wins and losses don't matter because we went 4-0 in the preseason, one faithful year, then went 0-16. I still have a Detroit Lions preseason champs t-shirt somewhere in this house. But anyways, what we want to talk about here is what the title said. And while we're doing that, hit that subscribe button, hit a like, give us a like, help the algorithm, I guess. Leave a comment just because we like talking to you guys. So leave a comment. And we're going to talk about a move that the Lions made that was even more important than we originally thought. And that was the move for quarterback Teddy Bridgewater. And I know Chris did some review stuff on the preseason game and stuff like that. I didn't even watch those videos yet. I'm going to be honest. I just want to give my opinion on this. And here's kind of the interesting thing about this. This was on a Pride of Detroit article. And it talks about with the addition of Bridgewater, Sudfeld needed a solid game in order to stay in the conversation for the 53-man roster. I'm just going to make it very clear. Sudfeld did not have a solid game. Okay. He was trying to convince the Lions to keep 3 quarterbacks active. So here's the deal. I think a lot of people are saying to themselves, okay, now it's between Sudfeld and Martinez for the 3rd quarterback. I don't think that's accurate. I think Sudfeld is trying to prove to the Lions that he is the 3rd quarterback and that they need to keep 3. Originally, he was supposed to compete for the backup job. We had heard some pretty good things, some not good things, but mostly good things coming out of camp. That Sudsy was playing pretty solid. He was very bad in this preseason game. He was forcing throws, and I know he was trying to get the ball to Jameson Williams, but he was forcing throws and did things wrong. He threw an interception on his first throw. That was absolutely a protection breakdown. We know that. His questionable pocket presence and decision-making was a theme that resonated all night. I couldn't agree with that more. He would throw a second interception later on in the half, targeting Jameson Williams again, as it was clear they were not on the same page. All in all, he targeted him 7 times. They connected twice for 18 yards. All right. Wow. There was a saving grace moment at the end of the half when Sudfeld led the team down for a late scoring opportunity, but an end zone fade to Dylan Drummond was thrown short, broken up. This was the second 4th down the Lions failed on with Sudfeld under center. Okay, so here's why this is more important than we even thought, the Teddy Bridgewater signing, because Sudfeld is actually probably worse than we thought. I think our thought process was that Sudfeld, my thought process was like, this dude can become a decent backup quarterback. Like, he's not going to be a top 10 backup quarterback, but he can be somewhere in the middle of the pack and maybe be just good enough that this team can stay afloat. Like, he can manage the game well. He can function within the offense well. Well, we saw that he didn't. And this was all backups. The only difference is he had 2 guys that were starters playing with him. He had Jahmyr Gibbs playing with him. He had Jameson Williams playing with him. Those 2 guys were more talented than anybody else on the field, and we still see Suds struggling. So we bring in Teddy Bridgewater, and that is a massive, massive move. So when you look at Teddy Bridgewater, one of the things that you have to see, and I like to break this down a little bit, is who has he been in the past? Well, when he has years where he can start the majority of the games, he's a guy who is traditionally, and his overall stats for his career, is a guy who has about a 90 passer rating and a 66.4% completion rating. That's not bad. Like, that's not bad at all. But let's take it just one step further on who Teddy Bridgewater is. Last year, he had player grades. You know I like me some PFF. He had an overall grade of a 71.2 and a passing grade of 72.0. Well, what about, let's compare that to somebody on the Lions, Jared Goff. 72.4 overall, 71.6. I thought that was really interesting. For starters, I thought Goff's would be higher just because I thought he played at a higher level. But you could be saying to yourself, come on, Craig, Bridgewater didn't play a lot last year. He only had 79 attempts. He played on the Dolphins. Their offense was loaded. Like, what does he look like throughout his career? All right, I'm going to give you his passing grades throughout his career, starting last year: 72, 70.7, 66.4, 71.9, 60, 62, 66, 75. All right. For comparison, let me give you Jared Goff's: 76.1, 61.7, 71.9, 72.5, 84.3. That was the phenomenal year in LA. 73.2 and 42.9. Here's what we can see out of Teddy Bridgewater. He is not, if anybody thinks he's going to come in and light the world on fire and be this guy that it's like, oh my goodness, he's a top 10, 15 quarterback in the league. No, he's not that. But his grades, his numbers, his throwing percentage, his accuracy with multiple different teams, every single team he played for, except Carolina, he had a passing rating of over 70. All right. And that is a PFF grade. I shouldn't say a passing rating. Every team he played for, he had a passer rating over 85. He had a passer rating over 85. And even with Carolina, it was over 92. So he's this guy that has played well for every team he's played for. Injuries have plagued him. They have plagued him, and I get that. And that is why he is going to be a good backup for us, because we're hoping he doesn't have to play a lot of games, therefore doesn't have the opportunity to get hurt. This is a guy who, if he didn't get hurt last year, was probably in for a much bigger payday, because if he had continued to play in Miami with those wide receivers, he would have looked so unbelievably good. But here's what we've proved in our offense in Detroit with Ben Johnson. We have proven that we can make a quarterback in Jared Goff look better than he was in a previous organization. We have proven that this is a pretty offensive-friendly situation. A large part of it because of Ben Johnson, a large part of it because of the offensive line. If you have a quarterback who tends to get injured a lot, what better place to put them than with a team that has arguably has the best offensive line in football? Maybe not arguably. Right now, it's the Eagles until proven otherwise. But this Detroit Lions team has a phenomenal offense. And now what we're seeing is that if Goff had gone down and Sudfeld was the only guy left, based on what we saw, and we know the guy doesn't have a lot of game experience, but based on what we saw, he flat out isn't ready. It would have been a multiple game adjustment getting used to Sudfeld, and even at that point, he may not have been the guy. So Teddy Bridgewater is even more important than we thought, because he not only fulfills a backup quarterback role, but he immediately becomes one of the best backup quarterbacks, or he has proven to be one of the absolute best backup quarterbacks in the league, and he will be for the next 4 to 5 years. And I'm not saying we're going to have him for 4 to 5 years, but he will be. He's 30 years old. And he that's the reason he's not a starting quarterback right now. I am telling you right now, there are 5, 6, 7 teams that know that Teddy Bridgewater is a better quarterback than their starting quarterback, and he's our backup. So let me know what you think. Do you feel the same about Teddy Bridgewater? Do you think this was a really important signing, or do you think we won't have to worry about it? Leave your comments below. And how about this one? If you're watching till now, who is the best Detroit Lions backup quarterback of all time? I would love to hear your answer. And I know who mine is, but let me hear what you say. Who's the best Detroit Lions backup corner of all time? Leave your comments, like, subscribe. See you on the next one.